if it's like that, that's mid.
I've always seen these vans, always seen you guys, but I've actually like never like come inside.
Rory's actually got the nicest one. So
Is this the good one?
This is the
Pinnacle.
That's the pinnacle.
I did notice it's a bit cleaner than yours. Yeah,
Yes,
I did look in the window. Yours is just around the corner. I looked in the window.
Not clean. Only when there's guests coming over, then I'll clean it up, you know.
Mine's always pristine though.
Is it?
You can ask how it's always.
Yeah, it's pretty
It looks
good.
It looks good. So how many months of the year are you guys sleeping in vans?
This year I've pretty much been since Fort William, which was what, May?
May, yeah.
May until September, maybe.
Okay.
I've been just before June, yeah, since Poland.
So, okay, let's backtrack. So let's do an intro for this. Maybe there's people watching that might not know who you are. So you are Theo Erlangsen, World Cup downhill rider, shredder, does all the big line stuff. How old are you? Where are you from? How many years have you been racing?
28 years old right now. I've been racing since I was about 12 at the first kind of Dirtopia race I did. I've been riding a bicycle since I was 3.
Okay. Cape Town.
Cape Town, yeah, from Cape Town.
Okay, sick. Rory, Kirk?
Yeah.
Same gig?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 20. I'm from Johannesburg, which you wouldn't expect a downhill mountain biker coming out of there. But I've been racing for maybe 5 years, 2 years junior, and this is my 3rd year elite, 3rd year racing overseas as well.
Okay. And we're currently in Morzy in France, and it's like mid-season.
Yeah.
And the most economical way for you guys to do this is to sleep in a van.
Yeah.
So you fly over with your bike from South Africa in the start of the European season, and you sleep in a van and drive from race to race, but base yourself in Morzine because the riding is the best. Yeah.
If there's ever time off, you kind of migrate to here because it's pretty handy to stay in a van around here, and there's trails like more than there's loads of trails around here. Basically, if you spend 80 euros a night on accommodation for 3 months for most South Africans' visa, that is extremely expensive. Whereas you can pick up a van for, £5,000-6,000 or whatever, keep it, and then it holds value and you can stay in it. So that's kind of a little hack we learned from the Aussies and Kiwis that first did it.
And what is your financial investment in a season of racing, as many races in Europe as you can? Like, what is the financial cost of that? Just an estimate.
You might actually know it better.
My cost is probably £500,000 to do.
Really?
If I could do it how I wanted to do it, in a hotel or accommodation, it would be a little bit.
So van life is £500,000.
No, you surely can't be half a bar.
Yeah.
Is that with bikes?
That's everything I pay for is half a bar.
Okay.
Pretty much. That's the rough estimate of the 2 past years I've done it. That much.
Wow. Okay.
Because
so you could do it for a little less if you maybe had.
You could do it for 300 maybe.
You could do it like really cheap for whatever, but then you're just shooting yourself in the foot as
because you need spares. You need to have the right equipment.
If you want to, basically your investment is kind of related to your performance. If you've got like a spare wheel,
and you're not full factory riders.
No,
you're privateers essentially with a little bit of support in parts and sometimes a little bit of cash, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay. So that's quite significant. We're currently in a situation now, we've got World Champs, which is 5 weeks ago from right now. Cycling South Africa has announced the elite men's team for downhill. I've just been talking about the elite men's team, but some of the juniors are in a similar position. And we have allocated space from UCI as a nation. South Africa has been allocated space for 5 riders?
6 riders.
6 riders.
6 elite men.
6 elite men.
There's 5 spaces left.
And there's 5 spaces left. And you guys and others are not on the team. In fact, it's only Greg Minnaar who's on the South African team at World Champs. And this historically hasn't happened, as to my recollection, in the history of the sport. It hasn't been like this.
Every year they kind of do an under-selection here and there. And it's like some people feel hard done by, but usually they select a few riders. But it's for the first time that I've been racing that they've just selected one
rider,
which is pretty ruthless.
So we're quite a proud nation when it comes to downhill on the international circuit. I've been walking around Morzine with you guys, and everyone's pointing at you. You don't even see it half the time, but people are pointing at you, going, "That's Theo and that's Rory." You're building your following, you're building support here. Yet you're maybe relatively not known as well in South Africa amongst mainstream media and amongst other sports persons. So what does it feel like for you to not be selected for the team? I mean, you've both done World Championships before. I follow you. I'm a fan of the sport, and it's my job as media to follow you guys. And you guys have the speed and the talent to be there. So for me, I've been outspoken, and I've been slammed by some other media houses for this. But I've been very outspoken about the fact that you're not in the team, as well as the other riders that are not in the team. And from my position, I think that because you're self-funding, the Federation of South Africa should fill the quota that's been allocated by UCI. How do you guys feel about it?
Well, it's
without compromising yourself.
Yeah, no. It's always like, to be honest, they've tried it with me before previously where they didn't select me because I had like a broken scaphoid for a race and I had to fight them out of it. And then last year I made selection on their criteria and stuff. But like every year you kind of put so much into your racing and your season, not just this year, all of the years getting ready to race and meeting people and getting sponsors and stuff like that. And it's the one race that's out of my control that I can't enter myself or do anything. And every year you are just on the line to CSA just doing a crazy maneuver and not selecting you. So
it's quite stressful. You've done all your season prep, you're here, you're racing, you've built your form, and then 5 weeks before World Champs you're not on the team.
Yeah.
So it's very stressful for you in a time where you should be fine-tuning your form.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
almost something, well, for me, I kind of expected to be in it. And I'm sure Theo would as well. Like the performance that we have in South Africa, Theo's had a pretty good, phenomenal performance in the
You were South African Series champion
last year. Yeah.
And you double SA champ.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a few SA champs.
Just with those kind of things, I was like, okay, well, it's on the list for the calendar to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Especially if there was like, if you're in the team like UK or France or whatever, obviously your selection's not guaranteed, but there's only about 4 or 5 of us out here trying to make things happen in Europe. Yeah. So you expect your federation to be like, okay, those guys are committed. He's done pretty good at some World Cups. He's done like pretty good at this. Let's give them the opportunity. You would assume your federation,
especially because you're paying for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't cost them a dime. So you expect them to be like, okay, those are the boys out here really trying. They've got some sort of points. They may not have made the criteria, but like they're trying and they're there. They are the best kind of candidates for it. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah.
So what is the impact? So currently for viewers watching, there is a process, and you guys are trying to get Cycling South Africa to relook at things. Let's assume the worst. What is the impact of you guys not making World Champs team?
So, well, for me, it doesn't impact me greatly. I've got sponsors, I've got people behind me, they understand where I'm at, so I won't lose sponsors and things like that. So it doesn't impact me. But even like the reason for this is just to try help the future generations of riders coming through. Even I'm a little bit older than Rory. Rory's a little bit younger, he's still young, Ross is still young. Those guys, it has more an effect on them. It's basically, okay, should I get into some real rambles now? Basically, we as South Africa are so far behind the European level that compared to France and England and things like that, we are years behind in terms of our talent on the scene and stuff like that. And World Champs is the one race where they actually throttle the number of entries. So France might have 20 really good riders, but they can only send 6. And America has loads of riders, but they only send 6. So it's the one race where they kind of throttle the entries for that race. And for us, like, you need to be filling those spots so that those riders can get experience in those situations.
Yeah.
Rory or Ross or I are not going to win World Champs this year, for sure. But in order to Ross to get more experience on the scene and at a World Cup, he needs to be in selection. The juniors in the sport, we need to be filling our junior categories fully up, because all of that time, it will take time and it'll take years, literally years. But it's our one chance to kind of get on level playing field with France or whatever, and then we selecting 1 out of a possible 6. We should be filling each each slot as hard as we can, so that in that one race where it's a little bit throttled, we can kind of get a bit we can get a bit of a level playing field and get some experience for the guys coming in.
Okay. Does it create, being in the World Champs team, having a midfield result, does it create some sort of a pathway into more support in the following year with a trade team? And does it also inspire young riders back home to go, I want to be like Rory Kirk, he got 40th at
Yes.
World Champs, but you know, if he can get there, I can get there, and it also encourages Rory to work harder because, as you said, it doesn't impact you as much. But
Yeah.
you know, someone at Rory's age, you know, he's got 15 years potentially where he can still be racing at World Champs. So,
well, for me, it makes a fairly big impact because it's my only the third year I've been overseas and racing, and World Champs is like how Theo said, almost it's not completely level because the guys in Europe are so far ahead, but it's a crucial race for me to gain experience.
Yeah.
Where there are slightly less really good riders from America, France, Canada, it's a good opportunity to get a better result. And you never know, a South African could put it together and be in the top 20. It's so close.
Yeah.
The racing is so tight these days. It's 3
If you have
seconds.
an amazing run.
3 seconds from 60th to 40th. You put another 2 seconds in, the top 20. So
it's not like you're getting lapped, you know, in some other formats. You know, you're 2 seconds.
2.5 seconds.
Yeah, which is nothing. It's one. You know,
in Poland, the gap from 30th to 90th is 4 seconds. Like, it is extremely tight downhill race.
So the selection criteria should definitely be different for this discipline compared to, say, track, road, and XC, because it's a completely different format.
Yeah. Yes. It's also on the Worlds and in the importance of it, especially to sponsors for somebody like Rory and Ross and I. Like World Champs is a pretty prestigious thing because I mean even a lot of really good French riders won't make it, but for us to be able to say we even on your CV at the end of the year we raced World Champs on this date, it's really good. Another point on that is why I think we should probably get pumped because a lot of them haven't gone through. But if you select a full junior allocation, number one, for the juniors, it's really hard to take off a year off school to go race in Europe and this and get funding.
Yeah.
When you're 16 or 17, that's really difficult. Whereas if you get selected in your first year junior and you got some sick results or whatever in South Africa and they say, you know what, pal, you go for it. Yeah. It's a really good opportunity for a South African to say to somebody, guys, I'm going to World Champs this year. I'd love if somebody could help me get some funding. Yeah. Brands are often way more ready to get behind a World Champs if it's just a once-off event or something like that. So for a youngster, you can go there and you can be like, this is my World Champs. I promise you, that one race he does in Europe, his first year junior, he'll learn more than 5 years he did racing in South Africa. And the next year junior, he'll be way more prepared. And guess what? The guy in sub-junior boys behind him or whatever, who's 16, and he sees all of his 17, 18-year-old buddies going to Worlds, he's going to get amped to start training at 16 so he can get ready for that selection when he's younger.
Yeah, I went to Elite World Champs in 2000 in Sierra Nevada. Can't remember my placing. It was 80th or something. I think there were maybe 140 riders. Got no idea. But I learned so much. I came back to South Africa and changed my complete approach to racing abroad. And now even more so. Things are way more gnarlier now. So it's very important for the juniors now to get exposure as soon as possible. Let's talk about other great cycling nations for a second. So France, the UK, America now is a force in downhill. Australia. They always fill the quota, right?
Everyone always has some. Even the Kiwis and Aussies have always a little bit of trouble with their federations. Like a lot of people somehow still run into federations. But I'd say because that they've got such good talent these days, nowadays they're sending a full New Zealand kind of selection, full Aussie. Most countries, like it's so competitive and there's so many riders from each country, everyone is trying their best to send all of their riders.
And the key difference is those are first world countries with a lot of budget, so those riders are paid for. So sometimes if they're not filling the quota, it's you know, it's like they're But here in South Africa, again, our athletes are paying the entire way. Last year, the federation helped with accommodation at one event, World Championships. But this year, you know, things are tougher. So it's key. You guys are paying your own way and you're not being allowed to race.
The crux of it is that people are so amped, like Rory and Ross and the youngsters coming through, people are so amped to try and make it a headway in downhill because of a rider like Greg Minnaar, that people are coming out here and living in vans like homeless people for months on end. Yeah. Everyone's spending their own cash, their parents' cash, like whoever's helping to support them. They are literally living like homeless people, showering in rivers. They are like, I promise you, waking up on a daily basis like that is everyone's got probably quite a nice home in South Africa. Yeah. And it'd be so easy to chill at their lounge in South Africa. But people are committed out here in their vans, living like not great conditions. So that's why it's so hectic when the federation says, oh, I can see you really trying your best there, living in what 20 to 1 euro to rand, and you know what? Oh, we're going to go to some regulation, and we're really going to go out of our way to not make you ride. It's so devastating for a rider like Ross or something.
It's devastating. So what do we want now? Where we are, we're like 4.5, 5 weeks away from World Champs. What is the ideal outcome? What do we want? Cycling South Africa or people at home, how can they help? What can they do? So first off, the federation. I believe the federation should work for the riders.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they should help you guys do what you're doing.
Yeah.
If they can't financially, they should create pathways.
Yeah. Just allow opportunity.
Allow opportunity for riders to compete and fill the quota. We have a big quota because of Greg Minnaar right now. So we need to maximize on that to help catapult the youngsters through, right?
Because basically the criteria is right now, it is like, it's really difficult. It is achievable, but as we stand and as the kind of talent in South Africa lies right now, it's really difficult. You basically, it's still from generations on where qualifying at World Cups was a bit easier and stuff. Nowadays with quali and semi and all the riders and all the kind of attraction in the sport, it's really difficult. Yeah. So at the time, well, right now, it's really hard to make your criteria, but a breath of logic would be amazing. Just to be like, okay, this is the criteria which we score the riders against. This is where so-and-so and so-and-so is achieved, and these are their points. But let's use a little bit of logic and think, okay, these guys are around about there. Let's at least go. He's about there. Let's at least go. So there must be some sort of logic involved. It can't just be black and white on a criteria that actually nobody really knew about. I've tried to change in last year. I actually sat down with the last year, on the way back from World Champs, last year in Fort William, I drove with, at the time, the current head of downhill. And in the car, I said, these criteria are crazy. We need to be changing the point scoring system and we need to be sending full categories. He's subsequently been let go as the head of downhill or whatever. But for you, they sent out that criteria on 15th of December, didn't notify anyone about anything. And then now, obviously, it gets to the crunch time. And then everyone's like, well, how about this criteria? It's insane.
Because also the period with when you needed to score points, there weren't any international events for you to score points, right?
They made the selection criteria period since January to June. So that's even insane in itself, because you could look at a rider like Greg Minnaar, who just made selection, I think in Val de Sol or Leger, he just made the selection. And he's the greatest mountain biker
so we
of
could have,
sport.
For like a split second or so, Greg Minnaar might not have been in this team.
He would have not been in the world's team. And that
the greatest
crazy
of all time.
To just say, no, Greg, all of your 20 years of World Cup racing don't count for anything. We started in June. Yeah. That's when you get judged by. Yeah. And South African racing and European racing are two different worlds apart.
So you need to be here to compete.
You need to be here. Yeah. And guess what? You can win everything in South Africa. I'll shake your hand if you can get paid for winning anything in South Africa.
And case in point, Stefan won South African title this year. He's the reigning South African champion. He also hasn't been selected for World Champs. He's prepared to self-fund.
Yeah, everyone is self-funding, So I think they need to the criteria is something that needs to be looked at in this now, but something needs to be thought.
Do you know, I've raced the first ever South African national title, and I've raced downhill almost every year since then in South Africa and abroad. Amongst the people I know who have institutional knowledge of downhill and the challenges South Africans face as downhill riders, not one of them that I've reached out to in the last week since the announcement have disagreed with us, with what we're saying here. In fact, they've been vehemently opposed to what's going on. And these are riders who've done downhill for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or are just super mega fans of it. So it's a nuanced sport that not a lot of people understand. And so, the black and white, a lot of people default to the black and white criteria, but actually those who have the insight and have the history, like me, I'm completely shocked by what's going on. It's not right. It's not helping the future. It's not helping riders. I've tried with Cycling South Africa. I'm still engaging with them almost on a daily basis since the 25th of June. So we're trying, but we'll see.
You want to add anything?
I mean, there's for sure just a lot riding on it Theo's fairly sorted. He's got so many other events that are popping up through his race season. But for myself, where the focus is to come over and race and then build the results up to where you're kind of in the mix, it's hard to, it's almost, I don't know, maybe it takes a lot away when you're not selected for a race that you feel where you belong, kind of thing.
Almost jades you somewhat because you're working so hard and you'll be proud to put on the South African jersey, knowing you've spent 15 hours a week training for years to get to this level, and you're paying for yourself, but then you're being denied that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
it's also the World Champs is right at the end of August, and there's one other World Cup after that. If Rory doesn't get selected now, he's going to stay in Europe for another 2 months. He may as well fly home right now and save some costs, because you would stay for Worlds and Ludenville, but if you can't do Worlds, you're sticking around in Europe for 2 more months and the Euro is expensive, and you stick around. So it's
So there's no logic, and there's no logic in this decision, and there's no downside in filling the quota.
I've heard before, we can't send somebody across because they don't have enough. They don't have enough points on the criteria, which means there would be a danger to themselves at the race.
Yes.
Because sometimes that can happen. If you bring a first-year junior across from South Africa who's never raced in Europe, you take them to Val di Sole. It's hectic.
Yes.
Like, they have a very high risk of injuring themselves.
Completely.
The elite men that are in selection or contention have all raced multiple World Cups.
We actually have such depth of talent. They just need that opportunity of some sort of factory support and some sort of results, which World Champs could be that event for them.
It's also our point system. Basically, you get a couple of points for, let's say, 2 points for winning overall series, 2 points for winning SA Champs, 1 point for second of those, and 1 point for qualifying at a World Cup. Qualifying at a World Cup nowadays is so hard. Top 60 at World Cup is really, really difficult.
The whole entire World Cup format has changed.
For not just me or Rory, for the factory riders, weekend in, week out, the factory boys will have...
I think we had 6 World Cups. Greg's qualified twice.
Yeah,
for the final.
There's many factory teams with huge budgets and teams don't qualify. There's also
Greg's regularly placing 45th. Okay, he's injured and so on. But
and the thing of that is, if let's say Ross came 71st or something at Leger, that is an extreme show of talent. He's maybe 1 second off qualifying, but because he's not within that top stick, he gets 0 points. Which is crazy. Like, if somebody comes 140th or 70th, they get the same, judgment and look upon it, which is crazy. We need to get points for a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and then give points until 100. You know what I mean?
And the other thing is, it's, you guys, it's not a court of law here. You guys are just riding your bikes. We're trying to make more heroes for South Africa to get, kids off of screens and out riding bikes and living a healthy life. There's good intentions here. It's not like there is no downside. Nobody is being harmed by this.
Yeah, and from the get-go, I want to even this is not an attack on Cycling South Africa or anything like that. I feel like it's crazy the kind of divide. After this announcement, everyone's been fighting each other, and the divide between the federation and the riders is criminal. That is they're fighting this and this fight. Why is it all fighting?
We should all be trying to unify the country through sport and working together.
I promise you, even in all the years, and I'm not even really an emotional, sentimental man. At World Champs, when I put up the South African jersey, I get touched inside. I'm like, you know what? I find it really sick to put on the South African jersey and go race for South Africa. By the way, all of the custom bike and the custom kit and whatever that's been pre-ordered for me on the way in, when I post pictures or whatever of the bike and the kit or something, I promise you 20 youngsters at minimum from South Africa will be so pumped on that. They'll be like, oh man, I wish I could get some custom bike. And you know what? They'll go and train and ride and get more amped on the sport. I'm trying to inspire the next generation.
So you're I don't know if you want to speak about this, but you have another passport. You have a Greek passport. So you could actually race for Greece, but you wouldn't want to.
Why would I? I've been South African my whole life. I would love to race for South Africa, but it's happened in motocross. It's happened in other sports before, where South African Federation just does silly things, and it's crazy. But I can literally sign up to a club in Greece and email there. I can email somebody, and they'll put me on the Greek team. Which is
what Ike did a year or two ago. He had a Dutch passport and wasn't selected, and
went to Dutch Federation. So I can race for Greece. It doesn't even impact me.
I think also I just want to mention that this has been going on for a while, but it's never been this bad.
It's been going on
If
since
you
Needles days and everything.
If you speak to Andrew Netling, who was a pro on the World Cup circuit and had podiums at World Cups, he's from Somerset West, Cape Town. He's retired now. He raced 12 or 13 years on World Cups. If you speak to him about this, he's commented on the site. He's more outraged than what you guys as riders are, because it had quite an impact on the end of his career.
Yes.
He had an injury and then he wasn't allowed to ride when we had the space. And it's the same with his brother, and it's similar, but yet different set of circumstances. There's Conor Finnis, there's Sharjah, there's many riders talented enough, and maybe they weren't going to be a Greg Minnaar, but they needed the opportunity. And why should we deny? Why should they be denied of the opportunity? I think there's just a lack of understanding, and better communication will solve this. A better understanding of this nuanced sport.
I think that's also that criteria was written almost more or less around a cross-country criteria, and then adapted a bit to downhill. But the last 3 years in downhill, the speed and kind of competitiveness has ramped up so massively that it is due for a rewrite.
Yeah.
And I tried to rewrite it with the last head of downhill.
This isn't us sitting in a van whining. There's been so much action and positive intention, a lot going on behind the scenes on email with the heads of the federation, from independent parties who have nothing to gain from this. And I suppose if you think we're whining, there is some frustration coming through in our tone.
Yeah.
Because once you understand the nuance of the sport, it's mind-boggling, the decision that where we currently are.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous.
The federation does nothing for you year-round.
Yes.
You stay in a van, you live off your own money, and you do everything yourself.
Yes.
And the one race a year where they literally have to sign you on, they say, nah, stay at home.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because people out here are spending everything they have to try and make it. So it's just like the one race where you need a little bit of help from your federation, and they say, nah.
Okay. I think, there's a big contradiction as well with like how accessible our South African race calendar is and how the World Cup calendar is, where if there's an overlap, they want us to gain experience overseas to be able to make the criteria for world champs. But our South African national calendar has an overlap with the same week as a World Cup. How do you want us to be at both of those? I only missed out on a point by missing one race. If I had done that race and came stone last, I would have had a point.
And so you would have had the 3
and
points.
been in. I think Theo would have he had a dark fest or something on a weekend of a race. If he had done that, he would have been in.
Yeah.
So
there's no logic.
There's just an overlap that makes the South African calendar not accessible for someone like me, Theo, or the 3 other guys that are here racing in Europe.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it accessible for us to gain the points in the way they want us to do it.
You have to come race here, because this is where you make a career out of it. You can win everything you want in South Africa. If you stay the whole year in South Africa, you get paid nothing. You make no name for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to come to the side.
You're also not getting exposed to the technicality of what World Cup racing truly is.
A huge thing is you can't. They said, we need to. World Champs is not a place where you go to gain experience. You need to do that in South Africa. Here we have multiple overall and national championships in South Africa.
Yeah.
Guess who always struggle to qualify at a World Cup? Because it's a different world out in the World Cup.
You have to be able to get into to get the speed.
And
it's a different sport.
And for this one race, you will allow the one rider, let's say Ross, who hasn't qualified in the Elite World Cup, whatever. It might just be the opportunity that he can qualify for this one and race and get a race run experience. Yeah. And you know what? Even if he gets one race run experience this year, it's really good experience.
And we haven't even begun to speak about the junior men. I mean, but the same, there's
for me, I don't. They can tell me not to ride. I don't mind. I would like to see this change for a point that I would like to see the junior category full up, because I'm thinking about the rider who's 12 in South Africa now. Because by the time these laws go and everyone starts getting a little bit better, that 12-year-old will be first-year junior and he can get a ride in juniors.
I remember the 2000 Worlds 24 years ago. We all paid for ourselves. We filled a bus. The team and the management, we filled a big bus of riders to get to the venue. So it's a long time ago, but we were a significant force of riders. And now we are only in total for Downhill Worlds. We are 5 riders that have been selected.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
2, yeah. Anyway.
It should be. It should be like 10 to 15 riders.
Yeah. Against Theo's point, I'm still upset to not be racing. Yeah. And I will be pretty upset if somehow this doesn't come right. I will be upset.
I say like I don't care, but I will be fuming.
It's your dream. It's
I will be heavily upset.
He's slightly older. He's got 5 years on me, but
you don't.
In 5 years, it's the race could be a turning point.
Yeah,
like, easily any race could be a turning point.
Yes.
Whether I get half a second better, it doesn't have to be. You can't pinpoint what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But it could be something that's going to help or whatever. You can't really go backwards doing that race.
Yeah.
It could be that little thing that ignites more support, and then with more support, you can not sleep in the van. You can sleep at a hotel at a World Cup, get a good night's rest, and then put in a good performance, and then you bust through into that top 30.
Yeah. I think it also, having the guys that are in vans almost, if you put us up there in the South African jersey racing, it would hit home a little bit, I think, for the South African. We are on a weak currency coming over here.
All the odds are stacked against us.
It's like
our sport,
like Jamaican bobsleigh.
It's literally our South African tracks do nothing to train us for overseas.
Yeah.
We come to Europe, we have to build our speed through each season and get good at riding, and then it's all the odds are stacked.
Yeah, and I think it would be good for not the heritage, but the guys at home would be backing us.
Yeah. So I think we should. You're hearing that we're literally parked on the side of the road here, and this is Rory's van. Theo's is just around the corner. They sleep here for months at a time. So sorry about the traffic noise, and also maybe sorry about the lighting and audio. I didn't bring any audio equipment for this, but let us know what your comments are. And maybe if you are in a position to step forward in whatever way possible, like Theo Erlangsen, Rory, Kirk, and there's a whole host. There's many other riders who need support. Any last words from you, Rory?
I'm trying to think.
I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of us. There's Theo, me, Stefan, Matt Lombardi.
Yes.
I think are all sitting on 2 points. Ross is sitting on a couple points.
Yeah.
I know there's some juniors that they've kind of shown up on social media that have
to
points.
Leger and raced Leger and got some experience.
Yeah, I saw, yes.
They're willing to come here. They're willing to race.
Yes.
Let them ride.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a golden opportunity, as I say, for them to go back to South Africa. I promise you, if he goes to Paul Roos and he says, Paul Roos, I've got selected for World Champs. Can anyone and their auntie give me $1,000 to go? Boom, he's got a flight. Yeah. Okay, can we do this? Boom. And he will... it might be a life-changing experience for the guy.
That's actually how I afforded to go to World Champs in 2000s. Is people can
because to go across for one race on a flight, whatever. It's like people are like, "What are you doing for a World Champs?" It's like easy to understand. It's World Champs.
Yeah,
let's support this lighty. Let's get them over. South Africans love supporting each other. Yeah. So I promise you, if you selected a full contingent of juniors, they're gonna get smoked this year. Send them over. And 5 years' time, they will be better and better and better because there's no ways we catch up to France, Canada, America, anything like that with this. I'm trying to think. I want to, for the juniors mostly, the selection is crazy. It's not like, it's not out of this world difficult to achieve. Like, we could all achieve it, but it is really hard to achieve.
But it also works against you. It's either you go to Europe and you get better, or you stay in South Africa, stay the same, and then come over.
And then you get smoked. If you spend the whole time in South Africa, you'll come to Worlds and get smoked.
The odds are stacked against you, and on top of that, there's currently no pathway to World Cups.
No.
And I spoke to the selector last year. I tried to change it. I've said them many times. I feel like it should go to a system where you don't get 1 point for this and 1 point for that. I feel like you should get lots of points for lots of different things and then start counting down the list.
Yes.
So you know what? You win a local race, boom, give you 1 point. You win a national, you get 3 points. You win, you come top 60 at World Cup, 5 points.
It used to be like that years ago.
Top 100, it needs to rank you throughout a World Cup. They've also got some criteria about like a percentage of the winning time. When Amory Perron
makes no sense when it's a 3-minute race.
When Amory Perron puts 6 seconds into Loic Bruni, you can tell my percentage is going to be a long way outside of that. So the percentage
kind of as I understand it, the downhill selection criteria is kind of a copy paste from the XC selection criteria, which is a 90-minute race compared to a 3-minute race.
But you just can't use a blanket program for the two different sports.
But basically,
and the same as those adjustments where, you know, it's a percentage of time or whatever. Greg has been world champ 5 times.
Yeah.
Like Theo said earlier, where does that come into play for Greg just made the selection, but nothing of his 5 other titles have come into play to say, oh, well,
maybe we sent the greatest rider of all time.
Greg should be there because he's a 5-time winner.
Yeah, like as I was saying, it should go a lot of points, and then you say, okay, Theo's on 20 points, Rory's on 25 points, Ross is on 19 points, and you select from there. It doesn't, like, I'm not saying that the thing needs to be overly readily achievable, but we should be getting lots of points for stuff throughout your standing at a World Cup. So at 71st at a World Cup
over a long period of time too, over 18-month period or something.
How can you not take into the previous years into account racing? Like you should, there needs to be a criteria, and there needs to be some logic involved.
Yeah.
Between you know, France and England and this, there has to be somebody there be like, okay, this guy's pretty good. Like it has to be a thought and logic involved in the selection. What else?
I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, nobody's trying to like fight Cycling South Africa. Nobody's trying to do something crazy. Like
we're only trying to do your country proud.
We're trying to better the sport and the people behind us.
I mean, the other flip side is all the pressure's on Greg now. There's one elite male. All the pressure to perform for South Africa is on Greg. And like, I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's not nice racing with that kind of pressure.
World champs. Greg got a puncture. Yeah. Then you get 0 result. You get a DNF.
We'll have no South Africans on hot seats. We'll have, you know, on the international television feed, the South African flag, South African kit won't even feature. We'll be
literally nothing.
Yeah, like a non-contender.
And yeah, it's just
well, let's hope for the best. Let's hope that things change. I want to grab this GoPro and actually just zoom out and walk outside so people can actually get an idea of where we are. Any final thoughts?
Somebody like Ross is in Andorra right now because he's got a South African visa. He can't even spend a lot of time in Europe. Can I tell you, it's expensive to get that visa. It's expensive to drive to Andorra. He's in Andorra right now, just riding. He's going to be so up to speed by the time World Champs comes. And you've robbed him of that opportunity. He's staying in a Sprinter van in Andorra, and he's not having a lovely time going to a coffee shop every morning. Yeah. He's not.
Yeah.
Give him the absolute pleasure of putting his name down.
Hanging around hotels, trying to get free Wi-Fi while no one's looking.
Put his name down on a piece of paper. It gives you that much. Nobody's trying to attack them and say they've done this wrong. We're just saying, just let the boys ride.
Fair enough. Rory?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let us ride. I've seen some hashtags.
Let the boys ride.
Let the boys ride.
Floating around on social media.
Right, I'm going to grab this and just show everyone where we actually are. Hope I don't get ridden over. But literally here on the side of the road in Morzine. That's one of the big mountains where there's lots of lions. And this is the van. And this is a public road, which is a bit quieter now. But thank you for watching. And drop us a comment in the bottom. Drop us a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. Get the discussion going. It's a worthy cause. There's no downside in letting the guys ride, and they want to do South Africa proud.
Boka boka.
Thanks, guys.